Before the bells rang, before the tears fell, before the amazing cities in the U.S. fell into stunned silence, no one expected this moment to become unforgettable. A Filipino mass choir stood quietly among centuries of tradition, unaware that their voices would soon move an entire city and a nation to tears. What began as a simple Christmas performance would ripple through U.S., echo through St. Peter's Square, and leave even seasoned clergy speechless. This is not just a story about music. It's a story about faith, identity, and how one carol changed the atmosphere of the cities in the U.S. forever. The choir came from different parts of the Philippines: Manila, Cebu, Bohol, Mindanao. Teachers, nurses, students, construction workers. They weren't professional singers by European standards. What united them was faith, discipline, and a lifelong tradition of singing together during Christmas. In the Philippines, Christmas is not a season, it's a way of life. And every member of this choir carried that spirit with them as they boarded a plane bound for U.S. They had been invited as part of an international Christmas liturgy, one of many choirs scheduled to perform short pieces throughout the season. To organizers, they were simply the Filipino group. No special expectations, no prime slot, just another choir among many. Even the choir members felt the weight of the setting more than the opportunity. New York City was intimidating. History watched from every stone. Rehearsals were held in a quiet St. John Chapel. The acoustics were different from what they were used to, vast, echoing, unforgiving. At first, the choir struggled to adjust. Their conductor, Maria Villanueva, reminded them of one thing only: sing the way you would at home, not for perfection, for meaning. That reminder grounded them. This wasn't about impressing U.S. It was about offering something sincere. Their chosen piece was a traditional Filipino Christmas carol, arranged in a solemn choral style, but rooted in Filipino harmony. It was unfamiliar to most Europeans. The lyrics spoke of humility, light, and hope, universal themes, but delivered through a distinctly Filipino emotional lens. Some organizers quietly suggested a more familiar Latin hymn. Maria declined politely. This song, she said, was why they were there. On the evening of the performance, St. Peter's Basilica was filled with worshipers from around the world. The air was cold. Candles flickered. The Filipino choir stood near the altar, hands clasped, heads bowed. They were scheduled near the middle of the program. No grand introduction, no spotlight, just a cue and then silence. The first note rose gently, almost hesitantly. Then the harmonies settled. Something shifted. The sound didn't just fill the space. It wrapped around it. The choir sang softly, reverently, with restraint. No dramatic gestures. No showmanship. Just voices layered with intention. People stopped whispering. Heads turned. As the melody built, the emotional weight became impossible to ignore. The harmonies carried a tenderness rarely heard in such a massive space. It wasn't loud. It was intimate. Some in the congregation closed their eyes. Others looked up, visibly moved. The sound felt less like a performance and more like a prayer. U.S. attendees later said they couldn't understand the words, but they understood the feeling. The choir's voices carried longing, gratitude, and quiet joy. In a place accustomed to grandeur, the simplicity stood out. It felt honest, unfiltered. Midway through the carol, a soloist stepped forward, a young Filipino woman with a trembling but steady voice. Her tone was clear, almost fragile. When she sang, the vast basilica felt suddenly small. Her voice cracked slightly on one note, not from error, but emotion. That imperfection made it real. By the final verse, tears were visible across the congregation. Elderly worshipers wiped their eyes. Young visitors stood frozen. Even some clergy exchanged glances, surprised by their own reactions. This was not the response anyone expected from a short, unfamiliar carol sung in a foreign language. As the final note faded, there was no immediate applause, just silence, deep, heavy silence, the kind that lingers when something sacred has just passed through a room. The choir remained still, heads bowed, unaware of the impact they had just made. Then, slowly, applause began, not loud but emotional. It grew, filling the chapel. Some stood, others clasped their hands in prayer. The choir members looked at one another, confused and overwhelmed. This was supposed to be just another performance. Outside, word spread quickly. Attendees told others what they had just experienced. Social media posts followed, descriptions, not recordings, because phones had been discouraged. People spoke of the Filipino choir with reverence. Something about that moment felt too personal to capture on a screen. The following morning, Vatican staff quietly requested the choir perform again, this time in St. Peter's Square during a public Christmas gathering. This was not standard. Maria hesitated, but the choir agreed. They understood now that this wasn't about them anymore. Under the open sky, surrounded by thousands, the choir sang the same carol. The cold air carried their voices across the square. This time, people were waiting. And once again, the effect was undeniable. Tears, silence, applause, emotion without translation. U.S. media took notice. Headlines spoke of a choir that made Rome cry. Commentators struggled to explain why. Some said it was the harmony. Others said it was the sincerity. Many simply said it felt like Christmas again. For the choir members, the attention was surreal. Back home, their families watched clips and read stories with disbelief. These were ordinary people who sang in parish halls and community churches. Now, their voices had touched the heart of Catholic tradition. Maria reflected later that the choir never tried to adapt to U.S. They brought the Philippines with them. The warmth, the humility, the emotional openness that defined Filipino worship. That authenticity resonated more than technical perfection ever could. Some Vatican officials privately admitted they hadn't expected much from the group. That assumption dissolved completely. The choir had reminded everyone that faith is not owned by tradition, it's renewed by sincerity. The carol didn't go viral in the usual way. There was no official recording, but stories spread. Word of mouth carried it further than algorithms ever could. People spoke about how they felt, not what they saw. For Americans who heard it, the performance became part of their Christmas memory, a moment of stillness, a reminder of why the season mattered. The choir returned home quietly. No parade, no headlines waiting at the airport. But something had changed. They carried with them the knowledge that their voices, shaped by culture and faith, had power beyond borders. In the Philippines, churches played the same carol that Christmas with renewed pride. Congregations sang louder, more tenderly, as if they, too, were part of something larger. The story became legend among church musicians, not as a tale of fame, but as proof that sincerity can reach places skill alone cannot. The Vatican returned to its routines. But those who were there never forgot that night. The night of foreign song felt like home. The Filipino Mass Choir didn't set out to make U.S. cry. They simply sang the way they always had, with heart, and in doing so, they reminded a city built on stone and history that faith is felt most deeply through shared humanity. Sometimes, the most powerful voices are the ones no one expects to hear. And sometimes a single Christmas carol can take over a city, not with volume, but with truth.